Hey, what's going on, guys? So Christmas is around the corner. That means we're going to make some homemade eggnog. So obviously, like every other recipe, there's a million variants on this. You know, it kind of comes down to a cooked version and an uncooked version. Now, I've had both. I think that the cooked version definitely tastes better. Plus, people get a little weird when you don't cook eggs. I mean, the meringue, it's not actually cooked. The egg whites are going to get whipped up, but we are going to cook the yolks. All right, so we'll get into that in a second. So, homemade eggnog. I mean, I love eggnog. I don't mind store-bought eggnog, but like everything else in the world, when you make it yourself and you do a good job at it, it tastes that much better. Plus, it just tastes better because you know you made it, right? It's the love that went into it, all the time spent making it. So if you really want to impress family during the holidays, bring some homemade eggnog. So what we need is some sugar, some whipping cream, heavy whipping cream, whole milk. It's important it is whole milk. We need the fat in there. In this case, for this portion, it's going to be 4 eggs. We're going to separate the yolks and the whites. We need some vanilla. You can use vanilla extract, regular run-of-the-mill alcohol, extract. This is some vanilla paste. Cinnamon, nutmeg. I'm using real cinnamon and real nutmeg, so I'm freshly grinding it. Although, again, feel free to use just powdered, store-bought, cinnamon and nutmeg. It's totally fine. Is it going to make that much of a difference using, pre-ground cinnamon and nutmeg? Probably not. It just seems nice that you can grind it fresh, right? Just like kind of like black pepper. Black pepper is black pepper, but if you have freshly ground black pepper, it's got a little more zing, a little more punch, so it is what it is. We're also going to need a little thermometer, all right, because we have to get to a specific temperature when we're simmering this, and obviously something to grate your stuff if you're using fresh. All right, a pot to cook in, and I guess that's it. So let me portion what we need as far as these ingredients and how much so you get a better idea. I'll be right back when that's done. All right, first things first, we have to separate these yolks from their whites. So there's a bunch of techniques to do this. You've seen, I'm sure, people use an empty water bottle to suck the yolk out and separate it. I'm gonna do the simple hand method, all right? But first, actually, I'm gonna wash my hands since I'm gonna be handling these. All right, so whenever you're cooking, you should always have nice clean hands, right? Especially if you're touching other people's food. All right, so take your egg. I have 3 bowls. One's for egg whites, one is for egg yolks, one is for the shells, right? So I can turn around and throw them out individually. All right, so crack your egg. I know some people are gonna say don't crack it on the side of something, use a flat surface. Oh, this is gonna be the egg whites, I guess. All right, get all that out of there. Put it right in my hands. And I'm gonna let the egg whites slip through my fingers, so that we're left with just the egg yolk. Okay, there you go. That's how you separate the egg. Let's do another one. All right, crack on the side of the bowl. Get rid of the shell in the hand. Letting it flow through my fingers, like, in between your fingers. And that is pretty much it. Okay. Now when you separate these, you're almost always going to have a little bit of the whites in here. As long as you don't get yolk in that, you're fine. Because we need to whip this up to a meringue later. Alright, and that would not do very well if we had egg yolks in it. Okay, and obviously you can check for any kind of shell in there as you're going through the process. Like, here's a little piece of shell. Make sure there's no shell in there. That kind of ruins everything, having an eggshell in something. Alright. And one more. Of course, when you're done with this, make sure you wash your hands again really well. Alright, so if you screw this up and you get egg yolk in that, unfortunately you gotta start over. Alright, but there you go. 4 egg yolks, 4 egg whites, garbage. Alright, so the next step here is to start the base. Alright, so I have my pot that I'm going to be cooking in. You can do this in a separate bowl, but it makes sense to kind of just do it right in the pot so you're not dirtying 2 things, right? We're going to need the pot and the whisk. Alright, our egg yolks are going to go there in just a second. Also 1/3 cup of white sugar. Then we're going to do 1 cup of the heavy whipping cream. I'll get that going here real quick. Alright, so we need 1 cup of that, which is there. Alright, and then we're going to need 2 cups of our whole milk. Alright. So 2 cups is the top line. Carefully pour that in there. And right there. Okay. I was almost perfectly clean. I did spill a little. Alright, so let's wipe that up real quick. Alright, so first thing you're going to do is put in our 4 egg yolks. And we're going to whisk in all the sugar, 1/3 of a cup. Alright, so we're going to move this around like this. We're going to whisk this just until everything is incorporated and the color is a pale yellow. Right. So get all that sugar in there. Again, if this is easier for you to do in a separate bowl, by all means, but you should use something like a rubber spatula to make sure you get it all in here. Because you don't want to, like if you mix it in a bowl first and you go to just pour it in, half of it's going to be stuck to the bowl. Does that make sense? So we're just making sure the sugar is completely dissolved in the yolk. Alright, so this is completely incorporated here. Then we're going to put in our 2 cups of milk. And 1 cup of our heavy whipping cream. And all that drip in. And we're going to go ahead and whisk this together. And this is going to be the base. So essentially this is like a custard. We're going to end up cooking this on medium heat. Alright, until this gets up to between 170 and 180 degrees Fahrenheit. Alright, so let's move this over to the stove. And we're just going to keep whisking this every, a few seconds. Don't let it, sit too long because you don't want it to scald or, burn on the bottom. Alright, and we're looking to get between 170 and 180 degrees Fahrenheit. So this is where their little thermometer helps. Stick this to the side of the pan if you have the capability of doing so. And this is barely reaching, so I'm not even going to bother with it. Once it starts getting warm, I'll just keep checking it manually. Alright, but again, we don't want to go over 180. Alright, so we are at 175, so I just took it off the heat. Alright. Now, even though we just heat it up, we want it to completely cool. But first, we're going to throw in our spices. So in my case, I'm doing fresh ground spices. So we have our little nutmeg here. Put this over a dish. Alright. We need a 1/2 teaspoon of fresh ground nutmeg. I'm also doing a 1/2 teaspoon of fresh ground cinnamon and 1/2 teaspoon of our vanilla. Alright, so let's see. That's probably plenty. Yeah, it's more than enough. So that's our nutmeg. Let's get a little bit more in there. So here's our nutmeg. Throw that in there. I'm going to go ahead and get our cinnamon going here. Man, that smells good. Although a big chunk just broke off. Hold on. Okay. Let's see, do we have a 1/2 teaspoon? Do this over the sink. Yes, we do. Okay. So our cinnamon, our nutmeg, and now our little bit of vanilla. Now this is the vanilla paste, so it has actual like little vanilla bean in it and everything. Alright, so I'm going to put that in there as well. Alright, so there's our spices and our vanilla. Mix that in while it's hot. Now what we want to do is we want to chill this until it's ice cold. Alright, so you can leave this out for a little bit if you want. To make the process go a little faster, you can do like an ice bath. Put this whole thing in like a big old bowl of water and ice and stuff. I'll probably just let this cool on the counter for a little bit. Then I'll throw it in the refrigerator, and once it's nice and cold, we'll get on to the next step. All right, so that is in the refrigerator, getting cold. Next step, what you want to do is make a meringue. So we're going to take our egg whites. All right, so the 4 egg whites we had. Put that in a bowl and start whisking it. All right, we're going to whisk this all the way to like a soft peak. It's almost going to look like, I don't know, like half melted whipped cream. All right, then we're going to add a little bit of sugar into it. So, and of course, if you have an electric mixer, that would certainly be helpful at this point. All right, but I'm just going to do this by hand. So I'll be back when we're done. All right, I gave you a different angle here. I figure I might as well show you it, but we're just going back and forth. I think I rotate the bowl every now and again. We're just whipping air into this. And if you have kids, this is something you can make them do. Usually have more energy than adults. So as we're whipping, obviously it starts off with that off-white egg, you know, raw egg white look, and then it gets frothy, gets white. It's just gonna get thicker and thicker. All right, so now I'm about 3 or 4 minutes in. All right, I don't have really, I have kind of a really, really lame peak. I want it to be a little bit more of a peak than that, but I'm gonna put the sugar in at this point. So again, this is 1 tablespoon of white sugar. All right, and then just continue with this. All right, so this is where we want to be, where we have these softer peaks. All right, I might have gone a little far with this, but that's all right. So at this point, this is when you're going to add your alcohol if you do want to make this an alcoholic version of eggnog. I am not for this batch. This is just going to be non-alcoholic. But for the 4 eggs and these measurements, you want between 2 and 3 ounces of alcohol. All right, so a 3-ounce blast of whatever you like. Traditionally, it's whiskey, right, or maybe rum. But you can use whatever floats your boat. You know, I would just stick to brown liquor, though. Don't be putting vodka in this or anything. At least that's my opinion. So now we're going to put this in there. All right, make sure this is nice and cold, which it is. All right, and we're not like, you know, worried about this being folded in or anything like that. This is all just going to get mixed together. All right. Make sure we get all of it. And mix it up. All right. And this will be our finished product, our eggnog. All right, but what we want to do is you want to cool this down again. Well, it's not hot, but we want it ice cold when you serve this. All right, so at this point, once it's all mixed up, I put it into another container. Right now, all I really have was this larger mason jar, but whatever your finished container you're going to serve it in, that's what you want to put it in. And I would put this back in the refrigerator, let it get nice and cold before I actually try it out. And, about an hour or so, and it's nice and chilled. We'll go ahead and pour some in a glass, and we'll give it a taste. All right, guys, so it is all done. I got a little clear glass here, although I'd probably put this in a little Christmas mug or something. I wanted to be able to see it. So here it is. Now 4 eggs. I mean, this is, again, a large ball mason jar. It's not even halfway filled. Actually, there's probably markings on there. Anyway, it didn't make a whole lot. This is probably 1 huge mug full or, 2 normal glasses. Of course, you could double this recipe or triple it or just keep making it as much as you want. Or obviously you can half it as well. If for some reason you want to go through all that trouble just to have 1 glass, maybe you live alone, you just want a little try, then just half the recipe. But anyway, this is nice and chilled now. We'll go ahead and try it. So first I gotta smell it. It smells great. It smells like egg custard. Got that cinnamon stick, just left it in there. Looks nice. I'm gonna pour ourselves a little bit here, just a little taster. It's nice and thick. All right, what you want, I guess, an eggnog. Let that drip off. And we're going to grate a little bit of nutmeg right on top as well. And I realized before I was using the zester, it worked, but this will be a little finer powder. And there you have it. So, homemade eggnog. Look at that. It's nice and thick. I mean, that's what you want in good eggnog. So here we go. Bottoms up, or cheers. Duh, it's disgusting. No, I'm kidding. And it's absolutely delicious. The problem is that it's not as chilled as I thought. The glass is freezing cold, but this is just barely chilled. I would imagine, you know, if it was nice and cold, it'd be even better. But this is unlike anything from the store. I mean, first off, the like the mouthfeel, it's super, super silky. And again, like really, really thick. You know, the stuff you get from the store, you know, can be thick. It could be, you know, pretty much the viscosity of like maybe the heavy cream itself, but this is thicker. But the flavor is really, really good. It's definitely different than what you're gonna find at the grocery store in the carton. It's much more like of an egg flavor, that good egg yolk. It's rich, it's wonderful. The you know, spices come through perfectly. The little bit of vanilla is like in the background, but it's not too much. But yeah, I mean, again, this is a non-alcoholic version. Of course, if you put whiskey in there, it's gonna, you know, add more depth to the flavor. For most adults, if you've only had eggnog that was spiked, you would probably be looking for that flavor. You're obviously not gonna get that exact thing with this without the alcohol. But of course, you know, you can make it any way you wish. So there you go, some homemade eggnog. It's not as hard as you might think, but man, is it good. It's definitely a different experience. 2 thumbs up. So that's all. Hope you guys have a wonderful day. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow with a brand new video. Take care.